Walls come crumbling down in Stockyards. Starting this weekend, visitors to Fort Worth's historic Stockyards will begin seeing barricades and security fencing in certain areas as the Fort Worth Heritage Development begins the task of removing crumbling, decades-old structures in the path of a planned $175 million redevelopment. Demolition work will begin Monday and will first include a hay barn and scale house behind the Exchange building on East Exchange Avenue. By August 1, workers will begin taking down a structure on the so-called Back 40 lot behind Stockyards Station, and by mid-August, they'll be removing a utility room and a portion of the cattle run north of East Exchange Avenue. Come September, developers will begin razing about a dozen buildings on the former Swift and Co. meatpacking property, east of Niles City Boulevard. Demolition permits were issued by the city last November. In an effort to keep the public informed on the Stockyards project and the planned demolition work, Heritage Development is hosting an open house from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Sunday in the Texas Cowboy Hall of Fame Museum, 128E. Exchange Ave. Visitors will be informed on what's taken place so far and what's ahead, said Kerby Smith, Senior Vice President with Heritage Development. Communication and transparency is one of the things the public desires, and we desire that, Smith said. Just before the open house, a Native American blessing will take place on the interior of the Swift site. That is not open to the public, but will be recorded, Smith said. Years in the making. It's been 2 years since the Hickman family, longtime investors and owners of a large portion of the Stockyards, said they were partnering with Majestic Realty Co. of California to redevelop about 70 acres. The partnership, Fort Worth Heritage Development, has long planned hotels, residences, more shops and restaurants, and more things to do, for the Stockyards. When the project became known, it unleashed a fury of passion and anger from preservationists to other Stockyards property and business owners, and residents citywide. While some residents did welcome the project, many dismissed it and said the Stockyards shouldn't be touched. Public meetings on the Stockyards often became contentious. Eventually, the City Council put measures in place that help preserve the Stockyards as well as those that allow the property owners to move forward with their plans. The Council approved economic incentives for the redevelopment. Frankly, after many months of study and analysis, and a realization of the cost of ownership and the physical realities, it's time, Smith said. Now's the time to move forward. The Swift site, and the Armour site just to the north, became the focus of an emotional debate as lines were drawn for a city-initiated historic district in the Stockyards that, in part, would have put restrictions on what was built and what could have happened to the existing structures. In April, the City Council approved a smaller historic district that doesn't include the Swift and Armour sites. Most of the Armour site was demolished by its previous owner, Chesapeake Energy. A consultant is currently working on a form-based code for the Stockyards, a type of zoning that places emphasis on building form, rather than land uses. But that doesn't mean the developers haven't been working on preservation. For 18 months, historians and construction experts have scoured the site, salvaging what they could and making plans for the rest, Smith said. When the structures come down, they will save as much brick as they can. Most of the debris will be recycled. The developers are hoping to save at least a dozen massive concrete columns from a cooling building to somehow be used, perhaps as public art. Already, the Heritage Group has saved a circa 1900 scale from Scale House B, heavy iron doors and about 4 pallets of ceramic tiles. Water troughs will be made into benches for visitors. In the end, only the 2-story laboratory/office building built in 1906 on the Swift site will be saved and preserved, Smith said. They're also saving the auction barn, Scale House A, the portion of the cattle run near and under East Exchange Avenue and the ornamental Swift and Co. Wall and entrance on NE 23rd Street. The building will likely become a stop on the Stockyards Heritage Trail that's in the works. About a dozen sites are the list so far for the trail, inspired by the Freedom Trail in Boston and the Constitutional Walking Trail in Philadelphia, Smith said. We have talked about it for many months about a way to embody the history, tell the story in a more meaningful way and also educate those that come, Smith said. The developers are collaborating with the North Fort Worth Historical Society and others on the project. We want to make sure we tell the story correctly, truthfully, accurately, and celebrate it the way it should be celebrated, not just for North Texas or Fort Worth, but the whole United States, said Josh Wheeler, a Majestic vice president. Hotel and apartment plans. Asbestos has been abated from the buildings. Demolition will be done using large excavators, not wrecking balls. Some structures will take a day to come down, others up to 4 to 5 weeks, said Gilbert Mota, a vice president with Commerce Construction Co., Majestic Realty's construction company. Once all the structures are down, basements will be filled in, foundations removed and the land graded. What we're presuming is the foundation and remnants of those buildings are still underground, Mota said. Crews continue to work on a mock-up of proposed storefronts for the redevelopment of the Horse and Mules barns on Exchange Avenue, making sure materials are the right colors and provide the correct waterproofing. By the end of the year, work on the barns should begin in earnest, Mota said. It's costing an estimated $40 million to redevelop the 180,000 square feet of the mule and horse barns. That work will take about a year to complete. A hotel to the south of the barns, in the so-called Marine Creek district, is also in the works. There could be an announcement on that by the end of the year, Smith said. The business terms are being negotiated right now with a hotelier, Smith said. There's not a final deal, but there is a perspective. Plans still call for apartments on the Swift site, and that has drawn a lot of interest from multifamily developers, Smith said. Fort Worth Heritage is also thinking about developing the site themselves, Smith said. We are exploring either option and really just exploring the multifamily market, Smith said. We've had many conversations with many groups, and they're all very interested.